I'm interested in then to a slightly alongside question around witnessing joy, because you mentioned in the open letter too that now there's another sort of almost burden on the Black writer is now that we're only meant to witness a certain kind of pain, experience, struggle, and that has become sort of synonymous with the Black poetics, right? And again, I love in your work that balance of even in Ode to My Hand, that if only people would know their innocence, right? Like, it's always in there, even in the joy, right? And, and so I'm curious then about just talking about, like, what's the other side of that? What's the witnessing of the other?
Well, I mean, you referred to the open letter, and I think certainly as people of color, we have plenty to complain about. I don't want to, by any means, understate that. But the thing is, I really don't think, I don't think any one of us as Black writers or Black people want to forget about the joy we take in being alive. What's the point of being alive if we don't understand why it's lovely to live, And so for me, I think to some extent, and it's probably earlier in my life, I made a conscious decision to try to write poems that were funny or mischievous, and poems that were just fun, pleasurable, The poems that are erotic, for example, are me kind of insisting on a certain kind of delight in being a human being and being physical, and the fact that we're here embodied, at least for a little while, And so I don't know if I've answered your question well, but those are things that I think about a lot. At this point, the balance seems to come more or less organically. I don't really have to say, uh-oh, I've been writing sad poems, I better write a happy one. I don't really do that, And so, but early on, what was funny is I didn't know what to do with real grief or rage. And so in my early life as a writer, this is before I was writing anything that was probably publishable, I would write only funny poems, just poems that were on the lighter end. They might have been hopefully they were somewhat imaginative, but they were mostly light. And then I thought, you gotta try to write things that are a little more, true to the difficult parts of life. And then I wrote this poem, I was probably about 19, called The Funeral. And that was the first time I wrote this very heavy poem about death and dealing with death directly. And from that point, I began to be able to move in both directions. Now again, I don't know if I was doing it effectively at that age. That's a different question. But I was really interested in I like to laugh. I do. I like lots of things about life. But there's this other thing that we have to deal with too. And I say this in the open letter as well. It's not only for Black folks or people of color. Everyone will be better off if we deal with reality in an honest way. We can all be free if we finally embrace the facts of the history in this country, and if we allow everyone to feel the fullness of their humanity. I'm just trying to make a case for that. That's all I'm trying to do, really. But I like funny poems, and some of the poets I liked as a young guy were funny. You don't know the poems of Russell Edson by any chance, do you? Anyway, you wouldn't necessarily. I was lucky. I had some pretty wild teachers when I first started studying, and Edson's poems are just crazy and funny. I saw him read once. Everyone was dying in there, and it's not stand-up comedy though. It's more complex and strange than that. And I thought, man, if I had any doubts about whether I wanted to be able to use humor, man, it was over after I thought, I want to use poems that are funny and crazy and strange too, but also, at the same time, you have to write poems that are dealing, more or less directly with difficulty and things that enrage you and make you very sad. But I want to keep that current alive in all of us that can laugh and dance and for a moment at least not feel worried or put upon by the insanities of the larger culture.